Hello, just a word before we get started. I'm the only one here today. This is a pre-recorded message. I thought I'd try to pull this off. But thank you for joining us for this stream of the Nintendo Stuff podcast. This one's going to be a little bit different. Logan gets to ramble because no one else is here to join him. He's solo podcasting today. But before we get started, don't forget we have a Discord. The link is in the description below. Feel free to join that if you were just joining us now. Join Discord. Feel free to check out our Patreon, which supports us in our endeavors and in the future when we want to just do this all the time. Don't forget to look us up on Twitter and Twitch and all those things. Follow us on all those platforms. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Labo VR, a little bit about Sonic, and probably a little bit about a few other things as well, though it is going to be a little bit differently paced, a little bit different than it is normally. So thank you, and we will get started shortly. Hello, just a word before we get started. I'm the only one here today. This is a pre-recorded message. I thought I'd try to pull this off. But thank you for joining us for this stream of the Nintendo Stuff podcast. This one's going to be a little bit different. Logan gets to ramble because no one else is here to join him. He's solo podcasting today. But before we get started, don't forget we have a Discord. The link is in the description below. Feel free to join that if you were just joining us now. Join Discord. Feel free to check out our Patreon, which supports us in our endeavors and in the future when we want to just do this all the time. Don't forget to look us up on Twitter and Twitch and all those things. Follow us on all those platforms. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Labo VR, a little bit about Sonic, and probably a little bit about a few other things as well, though it is going to be a little bit differently paced, a little bit different than it is normally. So thank you, and we will get started shortly. That was it's pretty hot. I'm like trying to monitor this as I'm trying to do things, and now it's throwing me off. Okay, we're good. We're in a good place, in a very good place. Looks a little bit different. I did a little bit of rearranging of my room. Ran into a few hiccups. Like it turned, if you guys were just here, like it turned, the screen turned black, for like a handful of seconds. When I realized that the intro video, I had moved, and I didn't realize that I had moved. And so I was able to find it and cue it up. And here we are, a few minutes late. But what's new? What's new? When are we not, just an absolute train wreck? So maybe someday, like, I'll be able to monitor all this real time. Like, I can't wait until, we get to a point where, we just got enough people going on, and we can produce a little bit more. I tried to do that a little bit more today, including that little video at the intro that you might not hear if you're listening to just the pre-recorded, audio version of the podcast, or just the VOD after the fact. But we are here. We are doing things. We are talking about Nintendo stuff here on the Nintendo Stuff podcast. I am your host today, Logan Welliver, because Paul and Brandon abandoned me. And that's pretty upsetting because, I thought, here I was thinking that we were all like really, really good friends. But turns out that they just want to do other things. No, I'm kidding. Brandon and Paul are respectively both taking a self-care kind of day. So you got to respect that. My self-care is rearranging my room, specifically so I can have partially this behind me, so I can just start to build a collage of things behind me, make my set look really nice. Alternatively, if you'll notice, I am not using my Blue Yeti mic today. Today I was able to acquire a few more items, and now I can interface my young AT2020 to chat with you guys today. Yeah, actually, guys, no puns in the chat, please. No puns in the chat. If you guys are missing out on this, it's because you're listening to the audio version, and you could be watching it live on Saturday mornings / afternoons, depending on. Right now, it's anywhere from like 10 to 12. Yeah, but we're getting somewhere. Let me think. Is there anything else I want to talk about before we dive in? Is there anything else I need to let you guys know? I'm in a great mood today. That's something worth noting. I'm eating toasted ravioli, so I guess it's a little bit of a mukbang as well. I have this nice red box over here that I have this microphone plugged into that I spent money on. And I'm glad I spent money on, because I think it's going to allow me to do some really, really cool stuff for the channel. Also, I've just noticed I've been getting better at white balancing and making images look better and learning how to use all those controls. So it's really coming together here over at the Break Room Bedroom, part of the Break Room Arcade. So let's think about the next thing. What is the thing that we are all dying to hear Logan talk about, because we know how big a fan Logan is of virtual reality. And if you've noticed, the main title for this show, I'm convinced we are in fact living in a virtual reality. And if you don't accept that, you really need to open your eyes. You really need to open your eyes. Get out on the internet, Google up some theories. We are certainly living in a virtual reality. None of this is actually real. And how do I know this? How have I come by this set of information? How is it that I have the foreknowledge to establish this new order of thinking? It's because of this thing right here. Nintendo Labo. This is how I know that we're living in a virtual reality. Essentially because Nintendo Labo is essentially VR. If you were looking into a VR headset in a virtual reality setting, right? So I've had a lot of time in some of these other headsets, right? So I know what I'm talking about. I've given a little bit, quite a bit of time in this the last few weeks. Specifically, like building this thing was a blast. I if anybody was here last week or listened to the last episode, me and Brandon, we had Nintendo on. Was Paul there? I can't remember. Weeks or so long ago. Regardless, we had Nintendo on. And we talked a little bit about VR. We've been talking about Labo VR for like weeks on end now. And it doesn't help that like the news is kind of slow. There's some other things we'll touch on, but I finally got my hands on it. One, I had a really, really great time. Putting these together. Like it was just, I don't know. It really brought me back to when I had access to a lot of Legos, right? I say it that way because like some people are like, oh, when I used to play with Legos, and that's technically true, but like I would still buy Legos if I had like a bunch of extra income. But seeing as this was, this set, the blaster set that I bought, was only $40, it was really easy to justify me getting in to this sort of thing. And again, it was just a really, really, it's a blast to build these. And there's some interesting experiences. The blaster games are a little bit fun. All these smaller experiences. Some of the videos that you do. Like there's one video, and I think they might have posted this online, but you just got like a big like a Mario in front of you. I say a Mario because it's like a person in a costume, and they're pulling like streamers out of your head, out of your face, out of your mouth, presumably. And so just a bunch of really small things just to maybe kind of give people an idea of like what VR can be like. What are the possibilities? A lot of people haven't even had like a Google like cardboard, thing. And that's essentially what this is, albeit with a much lower resolution screen overall. Though it does work. I've played Breath of the Wild. I played Breath of the Wild a little bit, and I wasn't crazy about it. I really wasn't. I think partially probably because of how you play it, and the way you do it is you get your headset and you get your Switch, and then you get your Joy-Cons on the sides like this, and then while you play it, you hold it up to your face. And I don't know about you, but no matter who you are, holding your arms up like this eventually is going to get tired. And maybe that was the desired, effect for Nintendo, because this definitely is aimed at a younger demographic. And Nintendo's weird about, like, oh, you have to be like 6 or 7 before you can do the VR stuff. And maybe there's a good reason for that. So maybe the thing here is like, okay, we don't want them playing in VR all the time. So if we just make them do this, their arms will get tired and they won't want to play the game that we just released. But at least most of the fun, like I thought the $40 was worth it just for the actual build itself. It was absolutely just a joy, and it really, honestly, it made me want to drop some cash money on some Legos. Like, I really, but the problem is I'd have to have somewhere to put it. But I digress because, oh my gosh, Legos. I can have more, right? Just have like a whole room in the future break room office, where it's just Legos. It's just an extra room. It doesn't have to do anything with the business itself. It's just Logan's hobby. He builds stuff and he builds dioramas with Legos. Back to what's at hand though. Nintendo Labo. I love the idea of being able to play Zelda in 3D. I can't believe I brought it back. I usually don't bring it back. I just go on tangents and lose it. But I love the idea of being able to play Zelda in 3D, Like there's something like, oh wow, cool. Nothing else in my peripherals. It's just Zelda. You get that depth and I would always prefer 3D in a 3D game just because I really like having depth perception. Some people think I'm weird for, having my new Nintendo 3DS and constantly using the 3D on it because I love it. I think it's great. I think it's a lot of fun. It just gives a lot more character. There's a lot more like things to be picked up on, So I mean the same thing here. Problem is not a very high resolution. And that can kind of get in the way of enjoying something like Breath of the Wild, even outside of, people talking about the actual like motion tracking, head tracking of sorts. And it's almost like not like you're moving on a pivot with your head, but almost like your head is rotating connected to like a sphere. Like here's a big sphere and that's all where your actual head can move and how it rotates. So it's a little bit weird. You can turn that off. I think Andre from Game Explained did a video on that and it got, rolling. But like ultimately it's just kind of, I think it's nice, right? Ultimately it's nice. They didn't have to put that in Zelda. They didn't have to have it. They didn't have to throw what they threw into what's the other Odyssey. Yeah. So the fact that they keep doing that with some of these things and just kind of cross-pollinating, adding extra modes and different input methods, just like, hey, if you have it and you have this game, like here's an option, like here's another thing you can do. And ultimately we're just getting more of that stuff without them adding really the cost. You just have to, do the Labo stuff. I mean, and ultimately, like, if you get just, like, the starter kit, like, I mean, this is really all you need for half those experiences. Though it would be interesting to see if the blaster gets used in any other games, or any of these things get used in other games. Just as a different way of testing inputs without Nintendo having to produce a ton. And what they do produce is just mostly cardboard. So, I am underwhelmed by Nintendo Labo VR. But I'm like still impressed. Like I'm impressed that I like put it on and I was like, wait, like some of this experience just feels like VR, and I wasn't anticipating that. I was anticipating something a lot cheaper than what I got. And I think the added benefit of actually me going through the process of putting together the headset, there's something just really appealing about that. Actually putting in the work, putting in the labor and being able to like show something for it. And something that's quite fun. So much so that I'm definitely here in the next few months, hopefully just gonna get myself a real headset and do VR that way. No offense to Nintendo Labo VR, because if you have a Switch and you have an extra $40 that you don't know what to do with, it's a pretty easy choice. It's a pretty easy choice. This is my Nintendo stuff, you know. So if you like VR and you don't have a PC and an extra, $400+ to buy a real a decent headset, if you're just looking to mess around, and obviously there's a lot more other creative things you can do with the Labo, and if you just like building things, there's so much here. Even if you just like building the thing and you'll never, I just kind of like having this around. Even if I never look at, look at the colors, look how zany it is. And then you can do this and just, it doesn't have to be anything. It's a good prop. I'm actually a little bit upset at myself that I didn't do one of these. I don't know, coming into existence or something like that. I'll have to play with it another time. Yeah. So I will ask this too, because I'm solo today. We'll get a little bit. We'll dig into some of these comments. If you guys have any questions, if you guys have any comments, Mooseman, I'll acknowledge you. I enjoy playing Zelda Breath of the Wild on my PSVR. Does anyone know if Mario Odyssey works with PSVR? I would imagine that it would, if it has kind of the same function as Breath of the Wild in PSVR. I'm assuming you went through the method of Game Explains video done by the wonderful Nintendo Don. You should go watch that if you haven't. Being able to pipe that image through PSVR. Yeah, so I that's something I'd be really interested in. So I am planning on getting a Vive here pretty soon, and there is, if there's a way that I can pipe the image from my Switch dock into the Vive and play it that way, where I can just have a regular controller, and then I can just sit there without having to move my head around or hold my arms up. That's something that I would be really interested in doing. Also getting a little bit more clarity, because it's outputting at 900p as opposed to 720p, though I don't think that's exactly true. I was watching the projecting off of a 720p screen is what I really meant to say. But I think the image, according to Digital Foundry over at Eurogamer, they found that it runs at something equivalent to 480p. So it'd be interesting to see if they could, remedy that in another way. Specifically maybe with a Switch Pro unit or something equivalent, where there's a higher pixel density and more to love. We'll see. Maybe that's a step too far. Maybe that'll be the point where they really kind of dive into the VR stuff, really work on the display and how that would work, and deliver a higher fidelity experience. Maybe something ultimately, I think this might be years down the line, something equivalent to what they're doing with the Oculus Quest, where it's just kind of independent. All the hardware's backed in, and there's just a really, really well thought out thing. And maybe it extends outside of Labo. Maybe it does. Maybe we just, maybe that's not the only thing we do forever. Big Buck Hunter VR Blaster compatibility. Nintendo Snow stuff. That would be funny. I would also think like maybe like a duck hunt game. Like can we have a duck hunt game with the blaster? Like that would be intense. I don't know, maybe like also some like Super Smash Bros content, even if it's just like viewing like even if it's just viewing the game in VR. A little diorama, maybe like a picture mode or something like that. I don't know. Ideas. They could do a million different things. What else do I have to talk about today? I think there was not a lot. This was a really slow week. We'll mention this. They talked about Bayonetta 3. Platinum Games. The quote from the Video Games Chronicle. This is sourced over videogamechronicles.com. Said Bayonetta 3 will see a change in design process based on Platinum's experience creating the first two games. And Alba added, and the firm is midway through creating an unannounced title, which he claimed has never been done before. So, I mean, this is so vague. It doesn't necessarily mean any one particular thing. Obviously, it'll be interesting. Also, my ignorance of the first two games. Really, I've played a little bit of the, I think Bayonetta 2. But you know, I probably have even less of an idea of what's happening, which I'm like really like I'm talking about it. I'm like totally not qualified to talk about it. Other than the fact that like, I mean, it's exciting to like, see developers acknowledge that like, okay, we also want to do like cool new things with our games. Like, don't worry about it. Like we love to do this. We love, you know, the IPs that we work on, and this is something that we want to continue to evolve and make something that's really, really worth your time. And so I think we can thank Nintendo for, you know, saving the Bayonetta franchise, and maybe it's time that I dip. Maybe it's time that I go grab a copy of Bayonetta 2 and Bayonetta 1. And I finally get to playing through those games because I can't think of any other games that I'm trying to finish right now. I've probably stopped a few games here and there, but ultimately, like, I'm not being drawn any number of ways. So Bayonetta 3. What do you guys think of Bayonetta 3? And what is going to happen in the development? Are we excited? Are we disappointed? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know in the comments below if you're, you know, listening to this afterwards. There's a lot going on, a lot to love, and we shall see. I don't really have anything else to say about it. Hopefully Bayonetta 3 is good. Also, where's Metroid Prime 4? Also, where's Animal Crossing Switch? Can we talk about that for a second? No. If you want to talk about Animal Crossing Switch with me, go to our Discord. Find us on Discord. And you can yell at me about Animal Crossing and Bayonetta and at Dream Drop here in the chat. So I think there's really just one more thing I want to talk about, unless something else comes up. When I said it was a short week, like there's probably some game releases, but that, you know, I haven't played, and there's not a lot of new releases that look very good. Well, not like very good. It's just none that I'm particularly interested in. Just more kind of like soaking in some classic games. Trying to play through Link to the Past and, you know, the Super Mario World. But ultimately, there are some non-Nintendo, things that are kind of tangentially related that I did want to mention. In particular about, and we'll talk more about this hopefully on, I don't know, what day are we going to do the breakdown podcast? I'll bother him later. But, and I'm talking about like the Sonic movie. And I want to talk about this because I think this is like an overarching theme for the gaming industry. And then I also want to acknowledge some better companies and better practices going on. So the Sonic movie doesn't look great, and we've talked about this. It's been almost a week since that trailer dropped. There are lots of negative reactions, lots of redesigns to Sonic's face, and the response was, we are going to change Sonic's design before the final release of the film. And there was a lot of happiness, a lot of, hey, this is what we're doing. We want to do better, and that's great. And everybody's like, wow, okay, maybe we'll actually get like a decent looking Sonic. Maybe the movie still won't be great. But maybe we can fix the design of Sonic and have a good basis for maybe a sequel, and maybe right some of the wrongs. Maybe this is that pivot point, which I think would be a great thing, except for the fact that now I've seen other people react like, oh, now they're gonna add like crunch time to the release of a movie. And I hope that's not the case, because this is the real concern. This is the real concern that like all these people working on visual effects and such are going to, have to put in extra hours, or are you going to delay the movie so you're not overworking people? And I think it's a little bit of like, okay, we should be concerned, but also like, how much is there that we can do, and how much should we do of the people that like aren't actually being affected by this. And it's the same thing that happens a lot in the gaming industry, where people don't have, people work longer hours and just crunch time in general. And yes, okay, so there might be some times where crunch time is, supposedly necessary, or at the very least temporary, which I disagree with. I won't go into that. But it's all about like actually finding, ways for people and workers to protect themselves in these situations. So I just kind of wanted to bring up and make people aware of like, if you're not aware of that other side of something, because it can get darker, and I don't want that to happen. But I do want people to be aware. And I won't get too much more into it. But like, I don't think anybody should feel personally responsible. Like the actual reaction, I think was okay. And hopefully hopefully it's not overbearing, and they don't get overworked. And if there's a possibility that they do get overworked, that they're going to just delay the movie instead. I think that should be the narrative. So the next thing that we need to say, this is really kind of a call to action, is that we are willing to have this movie delayed, and maybe they're not willing to do that because they think, they're going to make more money from releasing it at a certain time. But every day could help, as long as it's at the benefit of the people working. And so creating the narrative that like, yes, we want this change, but coupled with that is we're okay waiting, because and really kind of drive it home that like more people are going to go see this movie. If this movie does look better, you know? And then taking a little bit more time because of that is also okay, because people will function better and you'll get a better product when you treat your workers well. So that's all I needed to say about that. Guys, I apologize, at least in one sense, for this episode, because I don't really have anything else to say. If you guys have anything else you want to bring up, we can have an audience topic that I'll go over. But like ultimately, it's not like a ton happened all this week. Detective Pikachu is coming soon. And I'm probably gonna go see that. I should say I plan on seeing. And maybe this is bad of me, but I plan on seeing the Sonic movie either way. And we'll talk more about that on the breakdown, certainly. But yeah, I think that might be it for the week. Go check out Labo VR. Go check out all the things that we do over here on the channel. Okay, so here we got Dream Drop. What's some features you'd like to see in Animal Crossing Switch? Outside of just expanding upon the systems that they have, adding more content, and they've been adding more content, via like Pocket Camp, So it's like they've been building and showing off new stuff. So outside of just expanding that, I'd love to see more interconnectivity. I've said this before, that if Animal Crossing Switch can have like a really robust like online component, I think that could really change how we play the game, especially in light of like how it's designed, and specifically how Japanese culture of, okay, everybody's out and about and there's lots of public transportation and people are walking. So that's why they added Street Pass to the 3DS and why local play is big over there. But like for us here in the US, like if they really want to get us in, I think the one thing that I'd love more than anything else are persistent, villages, like maybe instead of, maybe you could have a solo game, but maybe there would be a persistent like online server where you could share, a specific like server town with up to 3 or 4 of your friends, something like that. Maybe that's asking for too much, and I've said this before along the same lines, but that's still like one of the things that I would love to see, and maybe I'm just a big dreamer, and I don't know how persistent it would have to be, because there's still persistent elements within Animal Crossing, even without it being always online, and I don't necessarily want it to be always online, but obviously if you're going to have an online world, you have to connect to online to do that, but also having like a single player experience. And maybe, I don't know how you would balance that, or maybe you'd want them to be one and the same, but like if you wanted to like just really share a world with your friends, that would be like really, it'd be different, and it would allow for different possibilities, and different activities, if it wasn't just, I'm going to come to your town, you can come to my town. So maybe there's another like area, kind of like the city and city folk, or I think the island, to play games on, just going to each other's, but like I think having like a really, really intense like online component and online area would be really good. Like give me more permanence. I want to see what could be possible with the design around that, I also think that, even thinking about like Labo stuff, like how could they utilize Labo stuff? And maybe you get the elephant thing and you can draw things, and maybe you can, maybe there's templates to really use that to design things in game, and you can do some really, really zany things with that if you wanted to. Maybe that might be asking too much. Just thinking of all the possibilities that we could be having, because I don't think there's an end, and I think there's probably a good reason why we haven't gotten Animal Crossing in a minute, outside of just the Wii U being a failure. It hurts, but it's true. And taking those resources and just, okay, we're gonna keep working on this. We don't need this game yet, so we can just keep chipping away at it until we have something finished. And we're getting near. We're very near. We are in the 5th month of the year. We're almost halfway through the year, if you really look at it. And that's a really exciting prospect. So ultimately, I hope we hear about it soon. I'm not sure we'll hear about it before E3. E3 is in a little over a month. I think it's like June 10th through the 13th. In a little over a month, we will. It'll be E3. I can't believe we're so close. We'll have like a handful, maybe 4 more episodes of Nintendo stuff, and hopefully the next episode we will have more than just me. And we will also hopefully have more to talk about, though I can't imagine we're going to hear a ton leading up to E3. Maybe that last week. I mean, we'll definitely be doing like an E3 prediction, so look out for that, because that'll be a fun one. And yeah, this has been Logan with the Break Room Arcade. You guys are wonderful. Thank you always for showing up, interacting with me, having a good time. Tell your friends to join our Discord. Tell your friends to watch our video. Tell your friends to watch our streams. Get on our Discord. Link is in the description below. This has been Logan. Don't break your backs. Break in the games. But for now, this is the end of the Nintendo Stuff Podcast.